Hello there and welcome back to the Inner Sanctum, the place where I show you all my truthful Plymouth live right in front of you. And sorry for being distracted, but I was speaking and making sure that I had access to the chat for both of the streams because we are finally having control over the live stream being simultaneously outputted through YouTube and also Rumble. Isn't that exciting? The Estonian Brave and gotta be sent from time to time to Tiago Remini, who happens to be beautiful from time to time.
Of course.
Not only just Tiago Remini.
Hello, girls and boys. How's it going? Very glad to be back, and it's great to have you here as well. And yeah, it is exciting because I think Rumble is a platform that deserves to be treated with respect, and we have been getting our stuff in order up until this point, and little by little we're ironing out certain issues. But now we should have full operation when it comes to being able to respond to your comments. So if you're watching us from Rumble, please feel free to let us know and drop any questions that you might have.
And you know what? It might not be a good idea to say the R word.
For real?
I don't know.
You think so?
Well,
Is that bad?
you know these guys are kind of insane. So whatever. I never said who. Okay, for those of you watching. No. Okay, so today we're gonna be doing a quick rundown of the different elements that makes Bitwig Studio special. Not because we're still waiting on you, Robbie, who is not watching yet, for you to deliver the final parts for the track that we have been working on for the last few weeks on Bitwig Studio. But it's because I also want to cover some of the questions that have been popping up on the different social medias regarding Bitwig. Because I usually work most of my time when it comes to producing music on Logic Pro 11. Or Machina, which is the one that I got behind me. I don't know if it's Machine or Machina, I don't know. But you know, the device by Native Instruments is one of my favorite devices to use when it comes to producing music, especially electronic music for that matter. But Bitwig, it's very good. It's actually so good that I think it's a good idea for me to show it to you. So let's begin.
Since we're going to be making
Go ahead.
this all about questions and answers, I actually have a question.
Go.
Since you already have an weapon of choice when it comes to DAWs, we already mentioned you use Logic most of the time.
Yes.
Why would you even need a different one?
That's a good question. The reason why I like to have different DAWs, at this stage I own the license for Logic, Harrison Mixbus, Luna, Bitwig Studio, and also Machine. So it's basically 5. The reason why I have all of them, it's because depending on which one I'm using, my workflow changes dramatically. Because, for example, on Machine, it's all about the hardware and its integration with the software. Bitwig Studio is crazy. It's simply crazy because it's basically a modular system, but in the shape and form of a digital audio workstation, and it comes with everything. And that's what I'm going to be focusing most of my attention today. When it comes to Logic, it's a powerhouse when it comes to handling MIDI, and it's the one that I use for writing more complex music in the sense of time signature changes and stuff, right? And when it comes to mixing, I love mixing on Luna and Harrison Mixbus because both of them have this console-like approach to everything that I love because, well, you can see. Okay, I'm kind of old school in that regard. So, without further ado, I think it's time to begin. Allegedly. Welcome back to Bitwig Studio. In front of us, we got an empty project that we're going to be using to showcase some of the features. And mind you, I won't be covering everything. It's basically impossible to cover everything that Bitwig Studio has to offer in an hour. It's that big. It's insanely complex and powerful, but yet easy to use. And that's the thing that I love about it the most. Right now, let me give you a quick rundown of what you got in front of us. Can you remove the overlays, please, there?
Yes.
Okay. As you might be able to see right now, we got 2 different sections. We got this area over here and this area over here. Both of them are working in tandem. Yes and no. More on that later. Because this is the clip launcher, very similar to what you get on Bitwig in Logic Pro, which is totally not something that Logic stole from Bitwig, which basically speaking implies the use of cells that will contain sound or MIDI information. And the other side, and would be triggered based on the pressing of buttons or even using a controller, such as the one that I have with me, this guy over here. But also allows you to record on the cells themselves to be able, for example, to create samples and trigger them on the spot and manipulate it on the spot. On the other side, over here, we got the arranger, which is traditionally speaking very similar to what you would find on Logic. And if we click here, it's basically a traditional arrangement window, okay? Robbie, how is it going? Good to have you here. We were talking about you a few minutes ago because we decided to go back a little bit on covering some of the extra stuff that I haven't covered yet on Bitwig on the previous sessions because we're waiting for you to finish the track. Okay, let's continue. Now, the thing is this. Now that we understand this concept, let's begin adding instruments. You can see here that both of our voices are coming through this. My horrible voice and his angelical voice speak there. Just
Look, majestic.
oh, so beautiful. Stunning breath. So we're using these channels as the input for our voices. One thing that is kind of bothersome with Bitwig Studio is that if you solo stuff, look, sometimes it behaves correctly and some others it doesn't. You'll see more of that later. Now, in Bitwig, you don't have access to buses. You got the effects tracks, which are over here. You can see that the difference is none. You can even have clips on them. But the trick is this. On these buses, you can, of course, create sends, which you can use, of course, from this side. And they behave quite similar to what you would find on Logic or Pro Tools or wherever is your poison choice. In a way for you to add, for example, parallel mixing and stuff. But Bitwig, big disclaimer, in my humble opinion, it's not designed for mixing music. Where's my squirrel?
Okay. It right here.
Too late.
Look at that.
Yes. No, it's actually not. It's not the best DAW, in my humble opinion. Well, I should have let the squirrel do its thing. But whatever. In my humble opinion, Bitwig Studio is not a good DAW for mixing. It's very, very, very designed and created with music creation in mind. Okay. You can, but I wouldn't recommend it. Now, coming back to this. Let's begin. I'm gonna create a new track here, and as you can see, by clicking on the plus button, automatically Bitwig already showed me a potential option for me, which is instrument. You can create an instrument all from there, or if I cancel it, you can go here to add, and there is where you will find all sorts of the different stuff that you can create. Okay, in this case, we're gonna create an instrument track, and from here, if you are look at that, Robbie already finished. Okay, perfect, Robbie. So that means that we can have a discussion on live on Session Wire tomorrow around this time frame. That could be efficient for me. We can discuss that later on the Discord. Okay, but coming back to this, you create your instrument. If you're familiar with something like Luna or Logic, you'll find over here something similar to the inspector, where you can insert all sorts of stuff. So let's create, we already created the channel, but here I gotta make sure of this. I have to select the output for my track. In this case, it's gonna be the Sound Bus. The Sound Bus, if I take you over here, and this is gonna be a good segue into explaining how the whole apparatus of effects sense works in Bitwig. Can you put me on the other side? There, please. Thank you very much. Right now, my voice, it's outputting to the live channel strip or summing bus, which is what is being used to output to your end. That's why you can hear me. If I click on the mute button, of course you couldn't hear me, but the routing works like this. But one more thing, you can see that my summing bus, which is the red one, has a send. This is what is being feeding the live input. What it means is that everything that I create here on the instrument side of things will be sent to the sum. The sum is the one that I can hear over here, and the copy of the sum is being sent to the live. That's how it's done over here. Okay. In different DAWs, you could simply just insert the create the output, the analog output or the physical output, and route it out to wherever you want. In here, you have to create an effects track, and that guy is the one that has to go out. Okay, makes sense?
Yeah.
I hope it does. Okay.
Yeah, slightly different, but basically the same.
It's basically the same. The things that you have to understand routing, because the routing applies to everything. And if you think about the use about this principle that I explained to you, when it comes to applying effects on Bitwig, you'll find them, and you'll find your way around it. Okay, there is no need for manuals in here, for as long as you understand the principle of sound routing. Okay, let's begin. So we got the instrument. We're going to insert an instrument here. I'm going to create something easy. Let's go for FM4, which is an FM totally not FM8. This is 4. It's an FM synthesis engine. And if I click over here on my, actually we can use the other angle.
Oh yes.
I don't know if you have control over it, but we'll see. I have a keyboard here. If Diego finds a way to use the camera on top to show you this one, we will. But look, that's the other side.
That's it.
Perfect. Okay. So as you can see now, I'm already using the keyboard to trigger the sound of the synthesizer. But let's do something fun. I'm gonna double click here, or press on the plus sign. This is showing me a collection of patterns already created for me, or not by me, but for me, to be used in different ways. For example, let's go for something here like a polarity. I don't know what that is. That sounds like let's go for something. Dusty path. Okay. Now it sounds like this. As you saw, the whole thing cycled back. Why? Because we're using an scene very similar to Ableton Live. Ableton Live, I don't know the pronunciation. You correct me if whatever I say it incorrectly, because I don't know why I always refer to it as Ableton, but I think it's Ableton. Whatever. So, we're going to begin from here. One of the things that makes Bitwig super cool, and it's something I like a lot about it, is what is known as modulators and operators. What are these? First, you got here all sorts of information. And mind you that this area, the inspector-like area, is contextual. Depending on what you have selected, is what is going to be shown to you. If I click on my voice, for example, it's just the effects, because I click on the track. If I click on the track that contains my instrument, it's going to show me the same information, the inserts and the information pertaining to the MIDI routing over here in the channels. But if I click on the area, the region, or the cell, all sorts of crazy stuff is shown to us now. I'm going to try to be brief, but this is badass. Look, first and foremost, we got what is known as modulators. Sorry, expressions. I'm going to begin from here. Expressions and what else? Yeah, let's begin from there, okay? Expression. What is an expression? It's something that I didn't show you on the when we were crafting the track, so this is actually new. Here we go. An expression is something that you could use to modulate wherever is contained on the cell. For example, you got a gain. If I do this, see what happens. Sorry, but of course it already changed the output. But it's static. It's basically like pushing the fader upwards, right? Or increasing or inserting a trim plugin. But what if I show you this? Sorry. There is a histogram here. What is that? Well, if you move this around, nothing happens, right? But what happens if I change this? The Chaos Engine. The name alone is really badass, right?
Oh yeah.
See what happens. I'm gonna press play. It's modulating the volume. The gain of the whole performance is moving based on the shape of the histogram. Isn't that cool?
That's actually pretty badass.
Yeah, it is indeed.
And it's done on that regard. It's done randomly.
It's done randomly, but also thanks to the Chaos Engine, but also on a cell basis, man, or clip or region. It's not the track what is being affected by this.
Okay.
So you can have a section in which you have weird effects. I went for the least exciting, so I'm gonna bring it back to zero. How about panning? Let's do the same. Chaos. Blood for the blood god. This is cool, right?
Yeah, you can do some pretty weird stuff with that.
Then let's try pitch. This is gonna be terrible, but let's see. Yeah, way too chaotic, but you get it, okay? So this is very, very cool. And also you can even affect the timbre, which would be, for example, well, based on the timbre of each of the notes played. But also, if you happen to use a keyboard, this is not aftertouch enabled. But if you happen to have an aftertouch enabled keyboard, you can actually use the modulator, the expression, sorry, to affect the aftertouch stuff.
Okay, cool.
Very cool, right?
Yep.
Now, let's go for something a little bit less, a little bit more esoteric. Let me see, where can we find that? Let's use the notes and the controls. No. Let's play around now with the modulators. A modulator is going to be found here. This, actually, we got one already in action. Right now, this modulator, first and foremost, what is a modulator? A modulator allows you to apply any form of signal to apply modulation or move parameters around inside of a plugin. And pay attention to what you said. In this case, an instrument. To move the parameters around based on the input or the output of that modulator, set modulator. For example, an LFO. An LFO is going to create a low frequency oscillator, which is going to be creating this sine wave or whatever shape you want. And if you apply it, for example, to the gain control of a synthesizer, it would increase or decrease the output of the synthesizer based on the position of the sine wave. Make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
So let's begin. I'm going to show you this modulator right now is using the mod wheel as a reference point. Let me try it here. You can see that my mod wheel is the one that is applying the modulation. It's based on the positioning for the mod wheel of the mod wheel. The modulator is affecting based on the position of the mod wheel. Okay, but what if I change it to, for example, manual, which is going to be based on the output of this guy? Let's see. So far, so good, right?
So far, so good.
But what if I tell you you can assign it to wherever you want? Right now, it's only affecting, when you click on this phallic looking button, you will be shown by the slightly blue hue applied to any of the different knobs of the synthesizer we're rocking right now. It's showing you which of the different sections is being affected by this modulation. So if I select, for example, the attack of the envelope of the amplifier, see what's going to happen now. Now the LFO is affecting that particular section of the synthesizer. But doesn't stop there. You can actually use that to affect plugins. Let's say chorus. In this case, I'm going to use the same effect, but to apply to the mix. But as you can see, I can do it. Why? Because this modulator is exclusive to the effect, to where it's contained. Does that make sense?
Oh, that one in particular.
Yes. But if you go here to the channel, let's add a modulator here. Let's say a classical LFO. Now it's pod racing.
Okay. Cool.
Look, I can apply that to everything. The same one. So this is going to be awful. But if you want to have something that is exclusively affecting a particular, in this case the chorus, you can insert your modulator. So I don't know if you're already able to see, Tiago, that you can have modulation on top of modulation on top of modulation.
And apply to anything, to your heart's
Anything you
content.
want. And so far we've been using built-in plugins or an effects. Could it work on something like Universal Audio? Capital Chambers? I couldn't pick a worse to
Yeah, you're going very
stupid.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. And let's apply that to the mix. There it is. It does. Kinda cool.
Yeah.
Very 80s. I like it. Okay, so I'm gonna keep it there. That was a happy accident. Okay, so far so good, right? It's understood. Now, you can also do something that is even better, more badass, in my opinion. Because when you click on a region, for example, and then you double click on it, you're gonna be shown the editor. Look at this. We got expressions as well. So I can actually do expressions note by note, man.
Yeah, the amount of control is kind of
Yeah,
insane.
so let's try something very ridiculous. If you hold and then drag upwards or downwards, you actually control the zoom. So let's say that we pick all of these notes, and these guys will have, I'm going to apply the chaos thing to the panning on the higher register. It will sound like this. How about that?
It's starting to get interesting already, and of course messy at times, but
Yeah, of course, because that's the nature of this approach. Because we're actually exploring, and that's one of the things that I find to be very unique to Bitwig. Because on stuff like logic, you are in total control of what is going on, and it's not that you're just a loose cannon when working on Bitwig. But one of the things that makes Bitwig unique, and why I stick to it so much, it's the fact that it will surprise you, and actually it's inviting you to do all sorts of efforty, if
Yeah.
that makes sense to you. Because sometimes you will end up doing something awfully stupid, but ended up quite good or impressive. It could change. It could inspire you to write a piece. Because, for example, right now this effect is starting to get me excited. It sounds cool, right? The progression and also the effects that we applied.
yeah.
So why don't we insert some form of percussion? Because I want to show you something here. I'm gonna insert. Yeah, let's go for drum machine. And then let's go over here so we can have access to the whole thing. You might be asking, can you select presets? Because I haven't been able to select one anyhow, right? Or any way. Easy. When you click on anything on Bitwig, or when you insert any form of instrument, or even plugins, you will be prompted with this. This is like a very hands-on presentation for the apparatus that you're using. If you click here in this folder, that's where you're gonna be shown the different presets that are part of the device. So let's see, I'm gonna go for something like acoustic drums, clean. I don't know what that is. One thing, live preview is on. This means that we can actually even give it a try.
Don't know. Is it sent to some?
Not yet. Good point. Let me make sure. Thank you for reminding me. Now it is. Once again, click on the browse button. We have access to the live preview. This means that, for example, if I go for the clean again, I haven't loaded the kit to the project, but I can already audition it. And you should as well. Yes, you are. Excellent. So let's say that I like this guy for whatever reason, okay? Okay, thank you very much. And now I will be able to mix it in. We can, just by double clicking, creating a region, begin creating our own rhythm. So, but since I'm very lazy, I'm gonna go for a pre-created region. How? Click here, and then let's go for, 90s, back to the 90s bit. There it is. So it sounds like this. Okay, kind of lame, being frank.
Yeah.
But we will spice it up. One thing that I didn't show you as well from the previous or during the creation of the track from previous weeks is this shuffle mode. You will have access to that from the play area. If you click here, you will have access to all sorts of stuff. including the automation modes and stuff, including overdubs as well that are very useful because I don't know if you like to use, for example, tech folders and comp. So that's where you get it. But let's enable group. When you click on it, you're going to be prompted with this particular set of options. So what is when you're playing drums? When you play with swing, what does that mean?
That would mean that you're moving yourself in relationship to the beat, to the grid. Either playing a little bit of slightly ahead or slightly before it to your heart's content.
Okay, basically speaking, that's correct. And since you were going in a less than Super Nintendo fashion, let's take your statement for granted. Yeah, but yes, he's correct because you're not necessarily you're playing to the grid, but you're playing slightly ahead, which would be pulling, or slightly slightly ahead, which would be pushing. No, it's pulling, and if you're playing slightly behind, you are pushing. Okay, why? Because it gives you this feel. You can do that here. In the shuffle mode, you're basically speaking adding that particular the what's the name? What was the word I'm looking for? A swing to the track. But here's the big thing. I'm gonna go for 1/8 because it's gonna be the most notorious, and I'm gonna apply a good chunk of shuffle. What happens is this. This icon represents, this guy over here, is the one that represents shuffle mode on or off. If I turn it off, nothing will happen. But you can see that the icon is also reflected here. This icon is, this area right now is presenting to us the content of this region, or this clip, the one that contains the drums. If I turn it off, the shuffle won't affect this region. But if I click on the other guy has it on. Do you start to see where this is taking us to?
Yeah, so you can apply it to independent regions or to the whole thing if you want.
Yes, that's very powerful.
Yeah.
So let's play around with it. I'm gonna turn it off on my pad pattern, and I'm gonna turn it on the shuffle, on the drums. I'm gonna press play, and nothing will happen. Why? We'll use it. Dude, you turn it on and nothing happened. Of course, because I had the shuffle mode off. This is performative, you'll see. Huh.
Yeah, now it's been affected.
Yeah, but only when this is on.
Yeah.
You start to see the potential, right?
Yeah, because you can, let's say, do a couple of bars without, then you bring it in, and you can,
Yes.
well, basically shape the whole thing by turning it on and off.
Yeah. The only thing I will do is it's a little bit too much. It's way too obvious. Let's go for something a little bit more musical. And the accent as well is very cool because it's going to add a little bit of velocity to the point on which the track begins. For example, this thing is doing it every 1/4. Let's make it faster, every 1/8. Let's see. Nothing changed. Why? We have to push the accent on that region. How much we want to. I'm gonna go nuts. Get it?
I just one thing. I think you might be clicking the master.
I might be clicking the master. I might be close to clicking. But living on the edge. Now I'm gonna lower the output to the live stream. Okay. So by doing this, we can start to create some very interesting patterns. And here's another big one. Right click on wherever button you wanna use, and you can assign the turning on and off to a controller. Right now, take them back to the UF8, please.
Yes.
I'm gonna be using my surface, my control surface, to behave, or I'm gonna turn it into a MIDI controller rather than a soft surface. By clicking here, I go to my MIDI layer on my UF8. Then I'm gonna click on Map a controller to key. Dang. Now, I can turn it on or off with hardware. So you can imagine that this is very cool for live performances because one of the modes or one of the uses for Bitwig is to be used actually as a live performance tool. Very similar to Ableton Live.
That guy.
That guy. I don't know why I have such a hard time with this one. And Ableton is fantastic. I know that Robbie likes to use Ableton, but I happen to be much more of a fan of Bitwig. I have huge respect for Ableton, don't get me wrong. I simply find Bitwig to be more on my alley due to
Craziness.
the craziness and the modularity of the software. Okay, so now I understand this principle. Let's play around with this guy. Over here on our MIDI region, I'm going to increase the visual area for you to see. We got plenty of controls now. I already showed you, for example, the operators that affects MIDI section, the expressions. Now I'm going to show you operators. An operator is this. This affects notes or slices of audio, even audio. You'll see why that's impressive. If we select, for example, this kick, we can get this operator, the first one, which is the randomizer. By turning this on and then adding a random factor, if we select it to 100%, it means that every hit, every note that is part of the pattern will be triggered on the spot. But if I go 50, see what happens. The only one that has been affected is the one that I selected. It will trigger at times or not. But let's say that we do the same to everything. Again, 50, 65, whatever is the same. Right now you might be saying, this is kind of stupid, right? Because why would you do that on a kick drum? Good point. I'm going to set it back. I'm going to turn it off. But what if we are working with an arpeggiator? And you want to add an element of randomness to the sound? Goes good. I'm going to create yet another instrument here. Or Reason, you're the one. Yeah, you use Reason and Logic. That I use for song creation. Yes, I never been a fan of Ableton. Look at that, Ableton. Thank you. Yeah, okay.
Allegedly, everybody should use Reason and Logic, even though it's not that.
Yeah, actually, I look at that. What a combo! Look at you, Aristotle. So let's go back. Let's create another instrument. Okay.
Kind of like a mandatory joke.
It is a mandatory joke. It is indeed. I'm going to show you something that is stupidly badass. Another new feature, not a new feature, but something that I haven't shown you before. And this is going to actually blow your head off there.
Will it?
It will.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay, so introducing instrument selector. What the hell is that? Nothing yet. I'm going to first make sure that you can hear it. Send to the sum. Thank you very much. Then, if we go back to our device panel, there it is in all its glory, the instrument selector.
Glorious.
Gloriously empty.
Yeah.
So let's fill it up. So let's say that I'm gonna add, I don't know, like organ, which will sound like this. Okay, lame as all hell.
And a little bit decaffeinated as well.
Decaffeinated as well. Plenty of lacking the caffeine a lot. But let's add another one. How about something more fun, like what's the name of that guy? Mariana. And Mariana usually is the name of a beautiful girl in my head. Okay, so I'm gonna press play. Dude, what's the point? Well, if I click here, what's the point? Nothing is happening. What if I click here? I wonder what that could do. Round robin. Are you familiar with round robin?
No.
He's not Robin from Batman doing round kicks. No, that was terrible. Sorry, I take that back. No, round robin is very similar. Is very. If you're familiar with samples, for example, I don't know, drums.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to use an electric drum kit often.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons, or one of the ways for a drum kit or a sampler to avoid sounding repetitive and making sure that everybody realizes that it's a computer and it's not a real drum, is by using something known as round ribbon. A round ribbon is kind of a randomizer based on input that selects different samples based on a velocity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So mind that you are playing the drums and the snare, okay? and you're playing to a sampler. If it's a good quality sampler, there will be several takes of the same velocity, which means the intensity of the drum hitting of the drumstick hitting the snare, that will be randomized or picked or selected randomly thanks to the round ribbon, adding all sorts of nuance and variety, diversity for those of your fans of that word to the sound.
Yeah.
Okay, very important. But what does that mean here? Don't know. Let's see. Round robin. Aren't
right.
you blown away
So-
already?
Well, yes, I am. Give me a second. Let me throw this here first. Okay. So now, are you basically creating your own round ribbon with the instruments that you're stacking there?
Yes.
Okay, that's pretty badass.
Every time there is a note trigger, we switch to the organ and then to Mariana. What if we have an arpeggiator going?
You can do some very, very massive craziness with that.
Let's introduce an arpeggiator. Over here, you can see that we got a plus sign behind the instrument selector and a plus sign afterwards. If you put it behind, if you click on the one behind, now it's going to show you note effects. Note effects for those of you Logic users, it's basically a MIDI plugin. Okay? Which means that, look at that arpeggiator. What a quinky link. So I'm click on it. And since I'm super lazy, I'm gonna copy the region, the pattern over here, put it here. And if the Emperor protects, we will have all sorts of mayhem.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay, I gotta consider that this is actually very, very cool. And
Is
you're only
this
going
pod
for two.
racing?
This is pod racing. at
Are
its
you
finest.
entertained yet?
No, but for real. And this already became extremely interesting with only 2 instruments in the selector. And you can go, I imagine, kind of nuts with that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, why?
Of course, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So, let's do it. Because I will dive a little bit more into the arpeggiator as well a little bit later. But let's keep adding stuff to the wall. I'm gonna add yet another layer of instruments. Let's say something. No, what's the name of that? Opal by Universal Audio.
That guy's quite cool.
So good. Yes. And let's go for something plucky because we're already doing this kind of dreamer. I don't even know what that is. But whatever, we're feeling there today. So I'm gonna mute my drums. No, I'm gonna keep the drums. I'm gonna even lower the pad because the pad is just a mess. Let's see what we get. And I'm just throwing shit to the wall. It's already, we are time.
Yeah.
We got time. So no, it's truly that.
Yeah,
Isn't it insane?
it is indeed.
Let's do some more stuff.
Why wouldn't you?
Let's apply a little bit of, what could we do?
Love.
No, wait a second. Don't go fast. No, look. Why, how about if we apply, and, let me think. Let's apply some modulation back to the shape of our step sequencer. Let's see. Over here, we click here. Sorry, not here. There. We got plenty of different presets for the step sequencer. Let's say Allegro chord master. That's terrible. Okay, let's say.
Damn.
I like it, but it's way too fast. Let me change it. Way too fast. Let's go for something less insane. Let's go for, well, it was in the name, man, Allegro. Damn, what's this? We're already making a song, man.
And a crazy one at
And a
that.
crazy one. So let me explain. This area here is the perform section. As you can see here, we got all sorts of different options. And this is something that you can actually select. And it's actually, in simple terms, it's just the different controls. Look at this. I'm just switching this area. Pay attention to this section here, okay? Now I turn it on. This is what it's doing. Because this button is assigned to that. You can see? Again, the Phallic, so we can change the speed just by doing this, but it's going to be based on the effect of this quantized section. Cool, right? Now let's go back to our synth, the pattern. I'm gonna bring back the craziness that is the operator. First, what if we create a huge slice out of that guy? Easy. If we go here to our slicer, I don't know if it's visible to you. Let me zoom in. Damn it, it's not. Well, you'll hear it. You'll hear it. You'll see. I'm gonna just make it short and sweet. So just 4. See what's gonna happen. This is already slicing this particular line into 4 different slices. I'm gonna press play. See what happens. Pay attention to his note. It's already behaving as a different note, even though it's the same note, because we're slicing it. I'm gonna show you that with something a little bit easier to understand. I'm gonna mute the crazy pattern we got. I'm gonna do it on the thumb. This thumb. Look at this. See what's gonna happen? Okay, it's gonna sound like all hell.
It was so many.
It was so many because this is actually creating like replicas of the hit. I'm gonna make it bigger, so now you can
kind of like subdivisions, right?
It's like subdivisions.
Yeah.
It is the subdivision. Look at that, Mozart. But that's right. But let's add some swing to it. So you can finally do your horrible trap hi-hats.
I can think of better ways of using that, but okay.
No, of course. That's so super cool. But that's one of the operators. I won't use that one. But look at this. Let me just make sure that this is off because it's gonna ruin everything. It's not that it's already beautiful. Take a look at this. I'm gonna use a different operator here. This guy is gonna be similar to the lock one, the chance one, but in this case we're gonna have different. We're gonna be using a sequence here for it to be triggered. Pay attention to this while the track's playing. And it's going to be affecting just this one note, okay? And I'm going to remove this guy as well. It's going to be off. Perfect. See what happens. Please pay attention to this in relation to this note. If you unmute it, it works. Could you see the difference?
I could see the difference, but I don't fully understand what's going on.
Let me do it in a different way, okay? I'm gonna do it with the pad. The pad is gonna be a little bit easier for you to visualize the sound, the effect of this guy. I'm gonna mute this particular. I'm gonna use this to mute or to turn it off by chance or by sequence. These 3 notes, okay? As soon as I press play, this quasi sequencer is gonna play first the muted section. This means off. And then once the entire track is played, the entire cycle is finished, and it comes back, now the notes that I selected will be played.
No, okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So let's give it a try again. Pay attention to that, okay? about that.
Okay, that's excellent. So basically, that thing is showing regarding the amount of bars when those notes selected are going to be played. Actually,
Yes, basically speaking, is what it's doing. But you can create an incredibly crazy pattern, man. Because imagine something a little more complex. Right now, I'm just applying it on and off. But you could actually, for example, use automations. Look at this. Oh, it's here. You can add, for example, where is it? I'm sorry. I'm so focused on, okay, I'm not going to go away from my plan, okay?
Okay.
Because there are so many things that I want to cover. But you start to see where this is taking us to, right? Because there are many things that you can do. And let me see, because where is that guy? Now I wanna show that. Yeah, here it is. Sorry, here it is. For example, you can have these three notes selected, and we can, for example, automate them to only play the first cycle. This is only applied to this chord. These guys are gonna play the first two cycles, but the third one won't be played. And this guy only plays the entire thing, only plays the first cycle. Pay attention, see what happens. You start to see the insane amount of automation that you can have. Because this is not automation in the sense of mixing, for example. This is more of a performative tool. And this is fantastic if you are willing to get into that more ambient, kind of randomized music style of music. That was awful.
Yeah.
Get me? Could you do that on Logic?
Can you?
No. Not at this level of randomization. Not that I know of. And you can call me someone who kind of knows his Logic and my reason. No, I'm not that good at reason. But yeah, this is ridiculous, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of insane how quickly you can get some very complex sounds and patterns. Because
Yes.
the thing is that since you have this amount of control, let's say the approach that you had for the whole thing with the instrument selector,
Yes.
that very quickly allows you to get some very, very weird but interesting layering of sounds. And on the other end of the deal here, when it comes to rhythm and stuff like that, you can also get some pretty messed up subdivisions and stuff like that without actually having to do much, because the DAW itself makes it easy to access this kind of features.
Agreed. Let me show you one final feature, because this is one of the most misunderstood areas of Bitwig. This is something that even you asked or had questions regarding the operation of Bitwig. Last time we were working on this guy. This, what I'm about to show you, is known as a built-in effects. Okay? Those guys are effects that you apply to a particular instrument, or how can I put it? Even a sound. Okay, a sample. Let's try that on our pad. Okay. Right now we got a mess. Let me try to clean it up. Aha! Look at that. Beautiful sound. Beautiful. Now, what is a built-in effect? I don't want the modelers. Thank you. If we go here to our, let me see where I can find it. Sure, sorry. Here it is. You got this section here. This is the effects. If I put this guy now into this guy, and the capital into this guy as well, they're now contained as part of the plugin. This preset of the FM4 will load if I save it with these guys inserted, even using the same parameters here, the modulation effect.
Yeah, okay.
But it doesn't stop there. If let's copy this channel strip entirely. Duplicate, thank you. Now let me make sure that we got the, perfect, is now correct. If I right click over here, and if I click on bounce in place, you already have this interesting question, or not question, writing. Pre-effects. What does that mean? I'm gonna solve this guy. It sounds very different from this. There is something different here. Let me show you. If I double click on this guy, now we're affecting this. Let's see what happens if I click on any note. Okay, it's working, but let's see why it didn't play correctly. Okay, now it's obvious. The thing is that it didn't trigger, the modulation didn't affect the sound that much. See what happens if I now bring. There is, but why is that happening? Easy. We got the effects on. If I turn them off, because this is actually, we didn't turn the channel strip from instrument to track. You can hold both or audio tracks in the same track.
It's kind of insane.
It's insane. Now see what happens. If I go to our guy and I select bounce, now it's going to ask me if I want the effects, pre-effects as we already did, pre-fader, which will come with the effects and at a flat volume, or post-fader, which will bounce the entire thing based on its position or the fader position. This is why you can have effects inserted inside of the sound of the module you're working in, or having them following the traditional pattern. Because if we click here, you'll see that we have none of the effects presented on our inspector. But if I take them out, they should and will show up there.
Okay.
Questions?
How would you use it?
For example, when you are creating a sound design, okay? Let's say that you're creating something and you like the sound so much and you want to sample it so you can do all sorts of crazy stuff on the sampler. But you want to preserve access to the same instrument. You could print it as bounce it in place without effects, so you can apply the effects later on the sampler. Or you can bounce it in place with everything built in, so you can remove the sound engine in its entirety.
Okay.
Get me?
Yeah.
But also, you could do something fun. For example, let's say that you create a sample out of one of these effects. Sorry, let's say you create an instrument, like something like this. Take us back there, please. Let's say you've fallen in love with whatever I did here. I don't even remember what I did. If I save it here, if I save the effect, it's gonna be or the parameters here of my preset as a preset, it will only save this guy. But if I insert the effects here, it will save the entire preset plus the effects plus the parameters plus the modulations.
Okay.
So I can repeat the exact same sound on different tracks for later use.
Okay, makes sense.
Now you see why it's cool. It's
Yeah.
like similar to what you do on Logic, which is saving the entire channel strip as a preset.
Yeah.
It's very similar, but in this case you do it on an instrument level.
Okay, no,
Very good,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
And let me see, because there are certain guys that you can actually insert, even plugins, you can insert plugins in. Let me try it. I'll go for, I don't know, 1176. Boring as balls, but whatever. Yeah, no, you cannot in this guy. But whatever, just to see what I'm going with this. And one final note. Let me see if I can come up with something cool using this particular extra technique. This is known as voices. I'm going to select my RPG, my instrument selector. Let me see if we can actually use this for voices. Yes, we can use the voice stack. Excellent. But I don't know if we will get some form of actual result out of it. Let's try it. What is that? No, you know what? It's going to be easier if we do it on the pad. Okay. On the pad, I'm going to select my FM8, FM4, and I'm going to turn on the voice stacking. I'm going to apply, let's say, 4 voices. What is that? A voice is basically speaking every time you click on a note, there will be signals that will be could be used to modulate even further per note played. And you can have up to 48, oh damn, 16 per note, allowing you to go to 128, of course, the range of MIDI, maximum poly playing voices. So I'm gonna create just 4 voices. So what's the point, man? So I don't know. Let's see if we can, for example, apply this to timbre. Based on the timbre, we're gonna be affecting the speed of the chorus. Sorry, that was loud. Why is that loud? Why is it so loud? I'm gonna just dock the output. There we go. It's not affecting. Why? Because it's using the notes. That's why I said that was a kind of a wild guess. But the idea is that you can actually apply this kind of modulation, extra modulation, to everything based on your performance or the playing of the notes. This was a very bad example, but you see what I mean with this. Yeah. I actually used it on the sampler. Let's do the sampler thing quickly. So I'm going to use this guy already. I'm going to create yet another instrument. Thank you. This is going to be sampler. Thank you. So I'm going to just select this region and drag. There is on the sample. Look at that. So beautiful, so certain. So now I'm going to show that you can hear it. Output into the sum. From here, I'm going to begin making my sample. Let's say somewhere like around this area. Yeah, but I don't like that little distortion that was the product of the sampling. Let's try this one. That's actually cool. So, let's begin. What can I do with this? Let's thinking. Give me a second. Let's do the looping area, but we're not looping just this particular section. So I want to turn this into a pad. Let's see. Yeah, but back and forth because that's going to be interesting. And now let's do something fun. Wait a second, thinking. I'm gonna use now the voice stacking again. But we're gonna be selecting, for example, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna click on this guy. Bluetooth, some parameter. Let's see. Let's try the velocity. Based on the velocity, we're gonna affect, for example, the release. You saw? You see? Pay attention to the release note here, okay? I'm gonna remove the mouse. So depending on how hard I hit the note, the release is gonna change.
That's pretty cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah, because you can make the whole thing very responsive.
And actually, well, basically speaking, you turn the entire Bitwig environment into an instrument. So goddamn good. So basically speaking, that covers pretty much everything I wanted to show you today. Bitwig goes super, super, super deep. If you want to see some of these tricks being used at its fullest potential, you can check the previous live streams. The one that Rob is going to finish, because next week I should have, allegedly, Rob's contribution to the track. And we're going to be finally putting it to that guy. We're going to be using all sorts of trickery, especially when it comes to sampling, because he's going to be sending audio tracks, allegedly. So are you excited, Teo? You are so excited that you're even glitching.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, but final comments regarding Bitwig, because sorry about that. You haven't seen most of these effects before. So what do you think?
Look, I find Bitwig to be very, very unique. I think that's one way to frame it, because the approach that he has, or what it allows you to do, even though it's not necessarily only pertaining to Bitwig, maybe some stuff are, but no, most of it you could find ways to do in other DAWs. But what makes this unique is how it pushes you in those directions. Not only that you can do it, but it's kind of like a you must do it kind of thing. Because what's the point of being in this environment if you're not going to take advantage of those modularities and the whole editability of everything? So I think it's going to be very, very intuitive to produce certain kinds of music or to produce certain kinds of sound in here in a way that wouldn't be on other DAWs.
Agreed.
So it ends up being a very valuable platform as well in that regard.
Totally. And one of the things I like the most about this guy is also how it pushes you to come up with crazy ideas, because it feels like it's limitless in the amount of stuff that you can come up with, right? The kind of stuff that you can do is, it feels like it's impossible for you to feel cornered, or you don't have excuses for you to not be creative in this case. And of course, it's highly technical, because it requires you to read the manual quite a lot. Another thing that I didn't show you, let me briefly, regarding whenever you find yourself stuck, let's say that you don't know what to do with something, you can always have access to the super useful and handy tutorial. Look, if you click on the arpeggiator, show help, everything is presented to you, but you can manipulate it here. So you can read what it does and also affect it. And this is actually not a mimic. No, sorry, it's not a dummy. It's actually what you got inserted.
Yeah, that thing is actually fantastic. It should be a standard, actually.
It should be a standard on any freaking DAW.
Yeah.
Being very frank. That's so good. So I totally recommend any single one of you watching that hasn't tried Bitwig, give it a spin. But you truly gotta spend a few hours learning how to work with it, because it's actually, if you come from something like Logic, for example, it's a little bit different, especially in the way that it handles buses and routing. It took me a while for me to understand how it works. Also, the way that it deals with recording audio tracks is also a little bit not stupid. It's simply different, if that makes sense. And you need to learn yourself how to operate under those banners. But this instrument selector is insane. Oh, one more thing. I have it in front of me. I will show it to you quickly. You can also do something similar to the instrument inspector, but this is instrument layer. What this guy does is similar but different. Let me sum it up. You'll see. I'm gonna drop stuff just with no interest whatsoever of what sound we get. And you'll see something super funky. Look, if I press a chord, the three instruments are playing in tandem.
Okay, it's layering.
Yes, Queen. That means that you don't have to, if you want to have like a massive, I don't know, huge bass tone or bass instrument playing a badass arpeggiator comprised of different synthesizers, you can, including your Moog Motor 32.
Okay.
Yes, you can even use hardware. So I can actually, should have done that. Imagine the unholy arpeggiator that could have been created using the Moog and the Juno.
Oh yes, that would have been awesome. Too late now.
Sucks so much. Wherever. But you see the potential now, right? This is insane.
Yeah.
And mind you that you could be applying effects to each of them, or because what? Beautiful, thank you. You can apply effects to the entire thing by doing it here. This would affect the entire thing. Let me show you something quickly, like, I don't know, reverb. Very stupid. Thank you. So if I press play, okay, we got reverb, right? But let's say that I will affect my face wherever. I'm going to apply distortion. And I'm going to go fully wet. See what happens now. I'm going to mute the other guys. The distortion, I'm going to, of course, thank you. I'm going to make it with gain. Here we go. Sorry, too loud.
Kind of bananas.
Kind of bananas. Turn it off. It's super clear that he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
The distortion is only applied to that guy. Why? Because I'm doing the built-in effect.
Okay.
Dengue.
Yeah.
We got a reverb that is applied to the entirety of my mass of sound, but my distortion is only applied to the phaser, to the phase 4.
And once again, the level of control in this thing is nuts.
Yes, it is indeed.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Again, I encourage every single one of you to give it a try. There are 2 versions. I'm not sponsored by Bitwig, but I happen to be a huge fan of it. And I truly would like more people to use it. It's not necessarily an underdog by any means, but it deserves more love, in my opinion. So I totally recommend you to give it a spin. There are 2 versions, if I recall correctly. There is one is cheaper than the other. And the way that the pricing works, it's actually, I don't have issues with it. Because you buy a license that allows you to have access to any form of update for a year with no extra charge, and you own the license forever. So if you don't want to keep paying for the upgrades, you don't have to, and you own the freaking software. It works on Mac, Windows, and Linux. Super efficient. And if you happen to own a bad boy such as this guy, there is official support for Bitwig from the SSL crowd. So, no-brainer. Totally no-brainer. So there you have it. If you like super this kind of content, Robbie, just make sure to get in touch with us, with me on Discord once we're done. And for those of you who are not part of Discord, what are you doing? You should be. It's fun. That's where we keep the conversation going. So if you want to support this channel, the best way to do it is by listening to our music on Apple Music or Spotify. And also by following us on Instagram and X, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us in a much more personal basis. And if you want to keep the conversation going, well, you know what to do. Subscribe to the Discord. And thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. And as every single time that I meet you, I remind you that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about. And remember that we will see you when we see you.